Hello. So I'm here for the evaluating part of Bloom's taxonomy to help you learn how to create and distribute rubrics using Google Sheets. So this is a strategy for managing a gradebook for any assignment that you want to grade with a rubric. And it allows you to share student spreadsheets of that rubric automatically with students that pulls the data directly from your gradebook. So, as an example, for my class in web design, the projects that I've done so far this year, let me see, I need to get rid of this little menu. So, I've done two projects so far with my students, um, and their grades for the project are automatically populated in this tab in my rubric gradebook. So, once I enter in the student names, I have to go and grade the students. So, we'll have a tab for each one of the projects. And I'm grading right now with just a kind of a checklist where I'm awarding a certain amount of points for things they do. I also grade students on a rubric too, and you could also use this for a rubric where you're grading them in categories with kind of a performance level, and I'll show you how to do that too. So you could do either one. And when you're grading them, I can grade students all in the same window. So as I scroll across, I have grades for them, and then I also have little comments for them. And as I'm entering these grades and entering these comments, it's nice for me to be able to do it all in one window. But then in the student version, I'll go over here to my student version. I have spreadsheets that are automatically created for each student, and it pulls in all the comments and grades that I've written for them directly from my spreadsheet. So I actually did not do very much work in creating these tabs and individual student spreadsheets that show up in the roster. Any of these spreadsheets, all these spreadsheets are automatically shared with students. So I can go into a spreadsheet that's automatically already shared with a student, and they can see how I've graded their project. And all this information that's in this spreadsheet automatically gets pulled from my gradebook. It gets pulled from whichever one of these tabs it happens to be for. So this is for the portfolio project, so actually it would get pulled from this tab. And then back at the gradebook, all the grades automatically get updated here, so I could put them in my centralized gradebook. This gradebook is just for projects. So how did I set this up? How can you set it up too? Well, the first thing you want to do is in my presentation here, I've put links for making a copy of my rubric template and making a copy of my gradebook template. So you're going to want to make copies of those first. So I'm going to copy those links into my other profile so that I can do it on an account that has never used these spreadsheets before. So I'm making a copy of the rubric and I'm making a copy of the gradebook. So this is the first thing you're going to want to do. So let's hope they load. Oh, there we go. So this one here, and I made a mistake because let me pause this right now for 1 second. All right, I'm back. I had a little problem that I had to fix, but you don't need to worry about that. So I made a copy of the two files. So the first file is called the rubric. So this is what the students will see eventually. It's also the file that is going to be used to create all the student copies. And this one is your gradebook. So in this one, I grade all the student projects in this gradebook. I manage all the projects in this gradebook. And I create the rubrics in this gradebook. So let's go through the slides because I want to kind of go through step by step the slides that I created and how you need to go through these steps to kind of set yours up. So there's a little bit of setup work at the beginning, but once you do the setup work, you're able to create these individualized spreadsheets for students. And the great thing about creating these spreadsheets is they're updated automatically from your gradebook. So all the individualized student data from your gradebook gets automatically entered in the spreadsheets. And then they're shared with students automatically. And once you get that system developed, I think it's really great for students to be able to open up an individualized spreadsheet that has comments about everything on their specific project. And if you do all that centralized grading in one place, it really saves you a lot of time once you do the little work in the beginning to understand the process. So the first thing you have to do is run the script. So this is working with Google Apps Script, it's called. And you need to run the script first in the rubric template. So in the rubric, I'm going to go to the Tools tab or menu option and click Script Editor. So once you do this the first time, you won't have to do this again, but you do have to do this the first time. So we're going to select function, and the function we want is onOpen. We want to press play. So just to review where I'm going here, I'm in slide 3. I opened the tools to script editor. I got the onOpen from the function, and then I'm about to press the play button, and then I have to authorize it. So I'll press play, and now it's going to ask me to authorize. I'll review permissions. You won't have to do this every single time, just the first time. And I'm going to say allow, and it's going to run. So now that it's run, what you're going to notice is that a new menu tab just popped up. It's called Template tab. So now I'm done with the app script. I can close this out. So now I have this new menu option called Template tab, and it says Create Student Tabs and Create Student Spreadsheets. So we're not going to use these yet, but what's going to happen is it will make a copy of this tab for each student in your roster. And then after you select the next menu option, it will make a spreadsheet from that copy. And I'll explain more about that in a moment, but you're done with this now. So we did slide 1. We authorized it, it ran the script, and we have the new menu. Now we're on to slide 2. So now we're going to shift to the gradebook and making sure the gradebook is set up so that we can get grades to automatically import. So the first thing we have to do is turn on link sharing. So back in the gradebook, you're going to want to click the share button, and it doesn't matter which tab you're on, but I'll go back to this tab. So I'm going to press share, and it's important that you make the link sharing for all people, anyone on the internet, be able to view it. And don't freak out and think about students being able to view this spreadsheet, because it won't really happen, because we're going to end up hiding the link from them. They'll never be able to find this link in order for them to view it. If someone was able to find this link or get the link, they would be able to view it, but you're not going to let that happen. It's going to be hidden in the spreadsheets, and the students will not be able to unhide it, and just don't share the link with anybody else. So you're going to want to copy the link now. So what I did was I opened up the sharing button. This is all described in the slide. I changed it to anyone with the link, and I'm going to copy the link. So I'm kind of right in the middle here. I've copied the link. So I'm at step 4 right now. So I'm going to make this go away. So in step 4, we need to go back to the rubric now. So the rubric needs to have this link in one of the cells in cell I2 of the template tab, and that's so that it works in formulas. So when I go over here, I'm going to press in this cell I2, I'm in the template tab. I need to paste it right there. And it already had a link in there. I think I'm going to delete that in your copy. That was for my copy. That was actually my gradebook, but now you're putting your gradebook in there. So you're going to notice that it should, once you paste it, it should just flip on and off and pull in the categories again. If it does ask you to allow access, this happened to me a couple times, but it may or may not happen to you. I guess it didn't happen this time, where you need to just click on one of the cells. All the cells might change to say ref, and that just means you have to allow access and press that blue button, and you would get that when you clicked on the cells. But that didn't happen to me. So we're moving on to the next slide. So we're going to update our rosters. So basically what's happening is the roster that you have in here needs to get added from your gradebook. And you need to add in first names, last names, and email addresses. The email addresses are going to be used in the automatic sharing step. When you create the spreadsheets for each student, it's actually going to automatically share them with the students as commenters. So that email address is important that you add that in there. And make sure that it's in alphabetical order by last name when you're adding them in. I'm noticing that mine is not in alphabetical order by last name. Don't make that same mistake. I could change the order here, Yeah. I'll change the order here. In this tab, you can sort in this spreadsheet. So now that I've sorted these, I'm going to copy these, and I need to have them also into the gradebook. And I realize they're in the wrong order here, so I'll put them in the right order. So did that do it? Yep. Let me just make sure that did what I wanted it to. Let me pause for 1 second and come back. All right, I'm back. I was just making sure that it was acting the way that I wanted it to, and it is. So once you enter the first names and last names, I copied these from here. So I would, from your grade book, I would put them in here, make sure they're ordered alphabetically by last name, and then copy them into here, into your grade book in the first column. So once you copy them into the grade book in the first column, they automatically get put in the top 2 rows of the template and any project tab that you have. I have this project one made as just an example, but it's automatically going to be copied with a formula up here to the top. And this is important for the searching feature that allows it to automatically populate. So what's also going to happen is that it's going to automatically pull in the grades for each student based on the project name that you put here. So I'll talk more about that in a moment. So let me just make sure that I've said these here. I'm realizing I flipped the order of these. Let me pause and fix that. Okay, I'm back again, and I just wanted to reflect in my directions that you really should copy them into the rubric first and then go from the rubric into the gradebook. Because in the gradebook, unfortunately, you cannot reorder these. I can't reorganize these and order them by first name or last name. They have to stay in the order that they are put into the spreadsheet. So when you put them in, just make sure they're already in alphabetical order. And you could do that by putting them in here first. And the last comment that I'll make is that if you happen to have students that have the same last name in your class, you have to deal with that now. So if you have students that have like siblings, John Doe and Jane Doe, they can't have the same last name entered into here, or else it will give you an error. So what you'll need to do is give them a different name. So if I do John, I'll enter his name as Doe John. And then Jane, I'll enter her name as Doe Jane. Now, I didn't put them in alphabetical order. If that really bothers me, then I need to switch it around. So I'll need to move these down. Actually, all of these need to be moved down. And I need to add these up there. So let's flip the order around here. John, Doe, John, and Jane, Doe, Jane. Now I'm also realizing that this is not technically in alphabetical order because these are in the wrong order, but that's okay. I'm going to copy these back into the template, the rubric, and make sure they all have email addresses. Let's make up the email addresses. Okay, so the important thing was that the last names have to be different. So if you happen to have 2 students with the same last name, they actually have to be different things in order for the spreadsheets to be made correctly, for them to be shared with the correct student, and for them to be named the correct way. They have to have different names. So I just put them as a different name, but that different name has to be carried over in both spreadsheets. So now I'm going to continue moving forward. So I should talk a little bit about how the spreadsheet works at this point. So what you've got is a template tab first, and then one example project created for you. Normally, I use my template and fill it out, and then I just duplicate it and make a copy and for the next project that I'm doing. But the way the grading works is the name of the tab is called Project 1. And then I've entered project 1 right here in row 2. So by entering project 1 here, it automatically looks for that tab, and then it matches the student names, and then it pulls that into this grade book. So if I were to copy this tab and duplicate it and call it project 2, I would get all the grades to show up by just typing in here, project 2, and you'll see that the grades will change. Now they're all zeros right now because I haven't actually put anything into here. I haven't put any grades in here. But you can see the names did get copied in, and they got copied in from here. But for now, I'll delete this tab because I don't need it right now. And then I could go back into the rubric gradebook and delete that. It did give me a reference error, but that will go away. And then if I added in a new one, it would update. So what you're going to do is you're going to build your rubric in this tab. So this rubric example has categories and performance levels that are based on points. So you're awarding students a certain number of points based on where they fit in. So you're going to want to fill out the rubric here, and then that rubric is automatically going to be filled out, populated in your rubric spreadsheet. And the cool thing is, if I make a change, so if I just type in change here, what you're going to notice is that this actually changes. There it is. So I went back to the rubric template and it changed to the word change. So if I undo that, you'll go back here and see that you can undo that. So basically what's happening is all the student rubrics, they're all being controlled by this one gradebook right here. So you're going to build your descriptions and categories, but if you decide to make a change later, it will get carried over into the student spreadsheet. So now you're going to grade, and let me make sure I'm at my spreadsheet so I've explained this step here where I have entered the names of the tabs in order to pull the grades in. I'm talking right now about how you need to fill out the gradebook, the grading categories and performance level descriptions so that you can grade students' work. And so you're going to enter the scores, and I have them added up to the max score down here at the bottom. And then you're going to comment on student work. Now, these comments are a little bit big. I'm going to change those to be a smaller size. I have done that in mine. I just left them like this. You won't notice that they're that big. In fact, let me pause and fix that. Okay, I'm back. So I just made the comments a little bit, I wrapped them and I made them a little bit smaller font, and that's going to carry over into your copy. So to go back to where I was before, I was explaining how my computer is a little bit lagged, but in slide 7, how you can continue grading the grade books, grading your students, and they're going to all copy over into the student tabs. So at this point, you're going to want to grade all the students. And if you decide you want to change the, let's say you want to change the categories and you want less categories. So let's say you want to delete this project category. So I can delete this row, and I deleted row 9. So you're just going to want to make sure that you delete row 9 out of here too. It moved up by 1, but I'm just going to delete that row, and you'll see that it fixes itself in a moment. So now it fixes itself and that's gone. So what you want to just make sure is that you delete the rows, but actually don't delete row 5. That's important not to delete row 5 because you need this part here. So you can just delete the row that you don't want, but you have to do that both in the template and in the gradebook at the beginning. So let's say now we're into slide 8. We've graded student projects, and now we're ready to create the student spreadsheets. So now you're ready to create copies for students. So what you can do is, what we need to do is update the name of the project. So you could update your class name. Let's call this web design. This is project number 1. You should type this one time in the template. This is going to be G period. And then what you need to make sure before you create the student tabs, this is important, that the project that name here matches the tab name here. So as an example, if I call this, let's call this project 1 to just change it as that example, that name has to be carried over. It really starts in the tab, then has to be carried over up here, because actually this needs to know what it is. And these are for your records. I'll come back to maybe why that didn't populate in a moment. I hope that it will populate. And then we have to also put that here. Notice that changed to a reference error, but if I enter that back as project 1, it'll come back. So this in J2 needs to be the name of the tab that you're grading. And I'm wondering why it didn't fill this out. I have to think about that in a moment. This is not as important, but back to here. So I'm ready to create student tabs. So I'm in slide 8. I've told you to update J2 with the name of the tab. It has to be the exact same thing as the name of the tab in the spreadsheet, in the gradebook. So the next thing you're going to want to do is hide all these columns from students. So I'm going to select column I. I'm going to scroll over to column Q, hold Shift, and hide them by right-clicking and going to hide columns. So it's important to hide them because when the spreadsheets are shared with the students, they're only having comment access, so they can't unhide them, and they won't be able to see the link of your gradebook because you probably want to keep that up from students. So if you make sure you hide that in the beginning, they won't be able to see it in their spreadsheet. They won't even know it's there. So you've hidden it, you've hit it. Now you're going to create student tabs. So when you go to Template tab, Create Student Tabs, what it does is it creates one tab for each student in the roster. It goes through the roster and it creates one tab at the bottom for each student, and it goes in order. So it did Joe John first. He was the first one, and you can see that this is the grade book. I'm just going to here. It did Doe John, then Doe Jane, then insurance, then repair, then student. It went through and it made tabs for them. Now, you may notice that in your last one, it says loading and didn't load the data. It takes 30 seconds for the data to load unless you make an action in the spreadsheet. So this is my little comment here. I didn't get access to authorize. Did I make? Oh, so now I'm ready. I want to create student tabs, right? So you'll notice here, this is in this slide 9, I'm pointing out that the tabs have been made for all the students. You might notice that the last one has NA in it, the last one. It should load. I think it takes 30 seconds, but if it doesn't load, press duplicate, right click on it and press duplicate, and then just go back and delete that duplicate, and it will be updated. So you might be saying, oh, there's nothing here. Well, that's because in my gradebook, there's nothing there. But I could go to that student and I could say, this is the student one. I could say 1, 2, 3, 4. These are your grades. And then you'll see that this comes through wherever I put it. This is going to come through here. Oh, look at that. These are your grades. And I should have mentioned the cool thing about these is that I've set them up with automatic coloring so that whatever grade you give them, it automatically colors that. And again, it's going to copy all the comments in. And one thing you can see is that, the formatting of the comments, they're big here for students, so students can read them big. But in your grade book, they don't have to be that big. So you can actually change the way they look here and make them look smaller for you, and they'll be looking big for students so students can read them. And they'll see their grade, all pulled from the gradebook. And as again, you can still grade them after you've created the tabs because it automatically updates. So I can go back in here, I can say, oh, wait, I wanted the student to get a 5 for this, maybe a 55 for this. This is Jane Doe. If I go over here, she's got a 555 for this. So it automatically is pulling the grades from the gradebook. Last thing you're going to want to do is create student spreadsheets. And even the student spreadsheets will be automatically updating from your gradebook. So you could even make changes to the grades or to the comments or to the rubric categories even after you've created the student spreadsheets. But at that point, they'll be shared with students, so just be aware of that. So once I'm here in the rubric, I have the 5 tabs for the 5 students. I'm going to go to Template tab and go to Create Student Spreadsheet. Once that script runs, what it's going to do, it's going to take a little while for it to run. So it's running. You'll see running script here at the top. It's making a spreadsheet for each one of these students, and it's automatically sharing it with that email address. And it's going by tab. So it's going to the first tab and it's sharing it with the first name. The second tab, sharing it with the second name. The third tab, sharing it with the third name. The fourth tab, sharing it with the fourth name. So it is important that the order of the email addresses is the same as the order of the tabs. Don't change the order of the tabs because they have to be in the same order. But now if you click on these, let's click on this for example, it created a spreadsheet for that student and pointing out to you again that you can change this. This is your new grade. 4. This is your new grade. So, in my class, I've been sharing these spreadsheets with students during their rough draft so that I can give them a grade in their rough draft. Now, students might get this loading error. Just tell them to refresh the spreadsheet. Let's refresh the spreadsheet. Oh, there it says, this is my new grade. It takes 30 seconds for these formulas to load. The way the formulas work, it takes 30 seconds for it to go past loading. Not 100% sure why. But once you come back in 30 seconds, we'll see that they're loaded. But basically what it's doing is it's creating spreadsheets for each student that automatically shows their grades. Here is the grades for this student, and it puts their name in the spreadsheet, and it shares it with them as a commenter. If I click on sharing, you'll see they are commenters. I'm the owner. No, wait, where is my other sharing? Got it. Oh, this one is from, I didn't realize that the email address that I'm on is the same email address. Let me click on share on this one, and you'll see that the student has been shared. Yeah, the student is a commenter. The reason why this one didn't work is because it's actually the email address that I'm on right now, confusingly. So these will be updated in one moment. And that's it. So I think, this is a little bit complex of a process, but once you do it once or twice, you'll get the hang of it, and it will be a great way for you to distribute rubrics to students. Feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to help you set this up on your set the system up with you one-on-one, because I think it takes someone there with you to help you go through all the steps. But I can help you do that on your account if you're interested in doing this. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.